we talk about the grant with CTE, and again, it's to, part of that grant is to improve the quality of our online courses via the best practices of course design. And so in those efforts, the college has adopted the CBC OEI, the online course design rubric. And so that rubric, again, has 4 sections. And sections A through C have to do with navigation, interaction, and assessment. But finally, we get to section D, which again, just for some of you who know what's happening with that or you've used it, they are making revisions to that section. It deals with accessibility, which can be a very, I want to say scary, intimidating for faculty because we just don't have a knowledge base to address that. And so what the CBC OEI now is working on redesigning the rubric and not eliminating the necessity for accessibility for section D, but truly integrating it into the components of section A, B, and C. So when you're creating the navigation of your course and you're creating your homepage, it's going to then remind you that we need to be using headings on our pages. We need to use alt text for any type of images that we're creating. We need to use the bulleted list feature when you're providing a list, or use the numbering list feature when something needs a sequential steps in regards to the students accessing the material via screen readers. And so even though right now it's still it's referred to as section D, those revisions will be made so that all of us, as we approach course design, we're not having to retrofit our courses, which a lot of us are going to have to do because we've all been teaching online for a long time, and our courses are built, and so we're going to have to go, those of us, trying to get in compliance, me included. When I went through the online education initiative and the course review, I learned a great deal about the basics of creating accessible content. And so like I said, if you can get up front on this and just have it in your mindset as you create things, then it hopefully just becomes second nature, and it doesn't seem like a large, daunting, kind of scary task of how do you do that, and try to, some of us in the past have just kind of done the minimum and avoided certain things that we didn't want to have to work with because we're not all trained in it. So that's the efforts of the course design, is that we are beginning to, that all classes will address accessibility. And again, for face-to-face classes, we make accommodations for our students. They self-identify, they let us know that they need some type of accommodation, and we make that happen very quickly. However, in the online environment, we should have courses, when we publish that course on day 1, that every student should have access to our course. And again, if there's something that you do have to accommodate and provide the material you want, in a format that's accessible by the student, again, that has to be in a timely manner, because think about the student who logs on Tuesday to start their work. They don't get their accessible material until Thursday or Friday. They've lost 2 or 3 days of work that other students have had access to. It puts the student at a disadvantage. And we don't always know who those students are. You could have a student that does have maybe a partial visual impairment, and they log onto your course, and you're not using alt tags, you're not using the accessibility guidelines to create your content, and you may never know that they just dropped your course because they felt like, I'm not going to succeed in this class. They didn't want to, contact. And again, maybe it's not a complete full blindness, but it's just something that's obviously going to get in the way of their success. So we just, again, every effort that we can make that our students are all successful, from the very beginning of class is super important. So some of the things that we've done here on campus is, again, with the CTE Grant, is provided us some monies that we're able to provide some professional development this year, and we have created a specific course that is just about Section D for accessibility. And so for those of you who are interested, it's a self-paced module. Again, the materials were provided from the CDC OEI, a training that they do. They share all of their materials with common licensing that we can adopt those and utilize those. So it's been tweaked a little bit just to, again, be custom to LTCC or reference Lake Tahoe Community College. But that site, if now that all the faculty have Canvas shells for winter and spring, we don't have to worry about any user account set up in Canvas, and so there's a URL. Can you see this one?
I believe so.
Okay. I hope everyone can see on the board. I've given the URL to the course for Section D. It's if you just copy this, maybe I'll go ahead and send it out just to everyone so we've got it again. But it's the https:// Lake Tahoe cc.instructure.com/enroll, and then / and these letters are, I don't believe they're case sensitive, but it's GBHGH9. So that's where you can go self-enroll, and you can just explore the site, see what it has to offer you. Again, it's hopefully you find it user-friendly. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me and Scott and those. Currently, Kellie in the Disability Resource Center and Beth Marinelli. They're both going through some extra training with the At One project. And they are going to be those resources here on campus to continue to support us. Even Nicole, she works up in the, she's a front office staff. They're getting her a little bit some training and getting up to speed on what faculty are kind of expected to do. And so again, this site, this is what we call the student view. So it talks about accessibility and who needs it. And again, this material is provided to us from the At One, which is a Chancellor's sponsored entity through the CTE OEI grant. And so this is again experts that have helped create this. Again, I'm not an expert in this field. With my instructional designer through the OEI process, part of their philosophy is they try to teach you how to fish so that we can continue to apply these apply this what we've learned to all of our classes. And so again, it's kind of the bigger, I don't want to say offenders, but really the things that we should always be thinking about the heading styles, descriptive links instead of just click here. You want to describe what the link is and where it's going. Again, providing using the lists feature. Always, and lists meaning the either bulleted list or numeric lists, including alt text on your images. Tables, it's really important. Sometimes in the past you may have used tables just to nice and cleanly present material on a page. When it's a printed page, it kind of helps with columns and rows, and it looks really nice and neat. However, when you bring that into where a screen reader's reading that information, you need to take the time to identify what the headings are. What are those columns meaning? What do the rows mean for the students? Because when the screen reader is reading that information, it can be quite confusing if you're not providing that extra information for the student. Color, again, not conveying messaging with color. So this is go, and then it's a color green. That's not going to convey, again, for someone who has any type of someone colorblind. Green may look a little bit brown to them, so they don't know what that means. They're not connecting go with green or that type of thing. So we just need to be careful with how we're color. And there is some information about color and contrast. What color backgrounds you're using. When you highlight something in your class, you may think, "Wow, this looks really good," but that contrast can cause somebody with visual impairments very much difficulty actually deciphering that real bright background to the maybe a black lettering on a really dark background. They're not going to visually be able to pick that up, and it's gonna lose its meaning.
So I wonder, will a screen reader, if you emphasize a bold, will it get that or no?
No.
It won't.
It says, it does indicate, I thought the screen readers would say,
like bold emphasis?
well, not bold, yeah, bold, like Tahoe. I mean, it's the purpose and the other thing is I've learned is that underlining. I've stopped underlining text in my classes because even a person visually looking at things now in electronic format, we're used to seeing underline hyperlink. You'll have students, I've watched them. So it's not just, it's about universal design. It's about creating content that all of our learners are going to be able to access the best and meet the biggest learning, all the most learning styles we can. Again, if we can kind of get out of that, it's just accessibility, it's universal design. And so, again, when you see those hyperlinks, I just never thought about that. I did it for emphasis. All this came from paper, printed materials that we're providing to our students. When you have a student that, it has no visual limitations, seeing something underlined was a way that jumped out us on the page. Well, our lives have changed now in electronic format. That's, again, usually a hyperlink. So I actually have watched students put their pointer over that a couple of times, and they don't see the finger, and they don't see the pointer, and they realize it's not a hyperlink. So again, how do we emphasize things? Again, it's okay to then bold it because the screen reader is going to pick up bold, and then if you want to put it in red because you want your learners that are, again, that they're picking up on important things. That's acceptable because you're then again meeting more students' needs. But again, just remember with the screen reader, and I'm talking about this of just demonstrations I've seen. I'm not the expert. That would be, Kellie and the DRC folks.
Say it depends.
Right.
It's like the worst answer ever, but yeah, it will depend on what program you're using.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and it matters, yes, exactly what type of screen readers you're using. And then again, the idea of audio and video. So again, when we're using video, that audio track, there should be closed captioning, providing transcripts to students, and again, the idea of closed captioning your videos. Remember, you may be using these videos in your face-to-face class and your online class. Think about the student who sits in the back of the room that maybe has some type, there's noisy classrooms. We know a lot of the acoustics in the rooms are distracting. That maybe I already have some type of, hearing impairment, and I don't want to identify that to everyone. I don't want to go to my instructor maybe and even share that. But however, a captioned video in my face-to-face class, I'm reading the captions. I'm a visual person, so as I read that, I'm tracking it and I'm comprehending the material. So again, these are just, again, like I said, good practice, but especially necessary in the online environment. So this is a site for you to access and then reach out to any of us with questions. I'll turn it back over.
Sorry I'm late, guys. I'm stuck.
We're happy to have Kellie Greiner, and your official title is?
I am the director of the Disability Resource Center.
Right.
If we were at a different college, I would be the DSP&S director.
Okay, I was wondering we still call it DRC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Excellent.
do for now. There's a lot of discussion in other colleges of changing names. Educational Accessibility Center is one that I really like.
I like that. I like
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
When we moved downstairs, we're actually moving into this room right here. My office will be over
cool.
there. Student lab will be here, so just so you guys know.
Wow.
One thing that I really like, construction starts July of 2021, so I'm hoping that we'll be down here by fall of 2021. I really like the name Partners in Accessibility and Wellness because that way we can house mental health in here also.
Oh, that's great.
There's talks about us getting a sensory relaxation room, which I'm very excited about. So that would be more like the wellness piece and really making the DRC less of a place where we just like outsource accommodations to teachers and make it a training center and a place where students can really come in and spend more quality time rather than just getting their accommodations filled out and leaving. So it's definitely something we're working on and keeping in mind. But today we're going to talk about note-taking. This kind of came on because the Glean team, the audio note-taking software team, was supposed to come, but they did not come because of the coronavirus. I'm very sad. They're UK-based, and their CEO was in China last month, so they're like kind of shut down.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're not here, but I'm here, and I know some stuff. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to just like open up with is the fact that you can only capture 35% of a lecture, even if you claim to be a great note taker, is what the Glean people say. Does everybody agree with that? Thoughts on that?
Depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the class too. Yeah. But I can believe it.
Yes, I could. I think if it was just listening to my instructor, if you know, again, a management instructor, if an instructor that's not, providing notes on the board,
like
so
a
I'm following,
lecture.
but a pure lecture, if I'm just
Oh, yeah.
listening to write, I definitely think 30% would be, I would be, that would be high for me to track all that and to keep remember with my memory now, writing my notes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we take into account things like other students talking in the classroom or moving parts like a PowerPoint and an instructor talking and your note taking, it really splits students into using multiple skills that they don't always necessarily have. Not all students have strong note taking skills or study skills or classroom interaction skills even. So the note taking, like when you really ask a student to sit and take notes, it can take away from those other kinds of skills that they're pulling from to be truly immersed in the classroom environment. I have handouts for you guys. Here's a handout. It's just kind of a flyer about how you can't just be a note taker. Note taking takes multiple skills, and you have to do more than one thing to really make the information stick. Note taking is not what makes it stick.
I was thinking this would be really helpful for our promise class.
Yeah,
Share this.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so definitely sharing it with students who are saying, like, I'm having a hard time paying attention in class. I'm drifting off in class. Like, my notes suck. Or I don't take good notes. I hear a lot from students, or I don't take any notes at all, kind of using this as like a starter page resource to be more friendly about note taking, because I think it intimidates a lot of students also. And really just teaching students that like it is a skill and it's something that you have to practice is what I've come up to a lot. Like, they think that's just something inherent that happens when you go to college, but that's not necessarily true. One thing that I would advise is, like in the promise class, like teaching note-taking skills. Like teach a student how to take Cornell notes. If they hate Cornell notes, maybe they like a different style of note-taking. Maybe they like Roman numeral outline. Like, I have my whole own little code system that I like to use. And maybe like starting out your classes in the beginning of the quarter saying, these are 3 ways I like to take notes. Give me 3 ways you guys like to take notes, and let's practice all these note-taking skills in the classroom. How much are we supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to ask you guys questions, or do you just?
No, it's very free form.
Okay.
I was going to say I will include this in the Sarah Mark has teaching the promise class, but I taught 3 sections of the last quarter, and I did the whole section on note taking, and I said, okay, I'm a traditional. I use a Moleskine notebook of a particular type. I'm very traditional. I do that. I see most of when I go to board meetings, like a board meeting tonight, most of the admin, everyone except me, I think they're using computers. And I was worried in a classroom setting with students doing this because, you don't know if they're doing, Facebook updates or TikTok videos. But I do say that if you don't like traditional notebooks, so I go over a series of different note apps on Android or iPhone. So I tell them, I don't personally care, but pick one, right? It shouldn't be an option to not take notes in class. If you're taking a math class, I don't understand, I struggle with math classes. I had to take a lot of notes, But when I see students not taking notes in a class, that's pretty, I don't want to say it's scary, but I feel like
It's concerning.
it is. And so I think it's almost like a culture shift. We almost need to say, let's shift our really emphasize to our students, the value of note-taking, because I just see a lot of students not doing it at all, which that worries me.
Well, I'm sorry, and I think we're in the our current world that we live in. Everyone always talking about being present. We're on our phones. being present in your class, also letting students understand it's not being present, yes, you're physical there, putting down your phone, but even your computer, that your presence is your active participation, and active participation could just come down to that you are writing down with what you're hearing. I think they don't know what the value and the techniques and what that is that's going to actually help their success. And so they think, oh, well, I can just Google it later, or I can just do that. But if you're talking about real true learning and retention, that type of technique might be sort of its small purpose, but this is going to serve you more successfully, in your long-term educational pursuit. So that maybe needs to sort of be emphasized.
And showing students, just because you don't think that note-taking benefits you, it is a skill that we practice in college. So pick one skill and practice it. And guess what? Then in the end it will benefit you because it's scientifically proven to benefit you. And so that's one thing that I pulled off of the Glean website was about kind of discussion on cognition and note-taking. And that note-taking is really pulling on the working memory. We're strengthening working memory. We're using working memory and we're splitting our brain into different places. We're in the classroom taking notes, remembering what the teacher said. And it's working. You have to work on it. You have to take those things from being liquid to solid through working memory practices. And note-taking and reviewing of notes is a working memory practice. So they say note-takers must coordinate the attention and storage demands of both comprehension and written production. They are thus constrained by the limited resources of the central executive and storage components of working memory. Multiple tasks at one time, you have to practice and learn how to do that. And you can improve those skills. Okay, I have a question for you guys. So do you think the traditional note-taking process, like how Scott is doing in his book, takes away from the classroom experience?
Not most of the time.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends on the activity you're doing in the class. I have my students come to the board sometimes, and if they're at the board, they can't be taking notes while they're at the board doing writing. But for most stuff, like my lecture or other things that they're working on, it's great.
Agree.
Yeah.
Ooh, me too. Yep, ding ding and plus. And then it talks a little bit about the 3 stages of note-taking, which are capture, study, and apply. I think the capture phase is where we probably all really focus, so what's actually happening in class in front of us. Students are all going to study in a different way, and they're going to apply their knowledge on the test, or they're not. So in capture, they talk a lot about what are we really doing when we're trying to capture a lecture through note-taking. Are we trying to capture headings, like you would in a textbook, and important definitions? Are you trying to capture main ideas and instructor perspective? Are you trying to capture whether or not your student groups are agreeing with each other? Maybe we're in some kind of political science class and there's debate. Are we trying to capture student opinion or instructor opinion? So really asking students to critically think about why they're taking notes and what they're trying to get out of notes in each class. Maybe even recommending to students, this is what I expect you to get out of note-taking from my class, or these are the things that I think are important to retain through the note-taking process for this class specifically, because for every class it's going to be different. Just like Larry said, when he's lecturing, it could be really beneficial. When you're writing on the board in groups and transitioning like that, probably not.
But then they can take a picture of the board afterwards.
Take a picture of it.
And
Heck yeah. And allowing students to take out their technology for shorter amounts of time, please whip out your phone and take a picture of this. It's, I think, beneficial. And it kind of shows students also, we're reaching common ground. We're present in the classroom and we can use our cell phone at certain exchanges.
If I can say something, but I think that capturing the image or had the solution to the problem. But when I feel like when students feel like they can, if I'm really good about writing on the board as a faculty member as I'm lecturing, or that, let me just take a picture of it, that there is that value of that kinetic, that you're actually, the physical process of writing down your notes or typing them, it's functionality in your brain that is helping you to remember it. That, again, how many of us that we really go back and study all of our pictures really in detail or transcribe those ourselves, that the value that there's a brain body function connection in your that there's neurology that is connected to that, where it's helping you to retain. It's just, like I said, we're all just so used to just click, and there needs to be a balance, again, the students understand what is the true value of writing it and doing it. It's that,
right.
A picture says 1,000 words, but do you remember 1,000 words? So,
that is 35% of 1,000 words.
So anyway, that's just my experience, at least.
350.
That's how many
You're supposed to answer.
I just figured
And that, I think, is a perfect segue to Glean. So Glean is audio note-taking software. I initially was going to apply for the Student Success Grant for Sonocent, which is more of a bigger, flushed-out version of Glean. Kind of looks like movie editing software. You can edit the voice to make it higher pitch or lower pitch, or slow it down, speed it up. You can clip it to different points. It's really hard to use, and the people that work at Sonocent recognize that. They got a lot of student feedback, and they came up with Glean, which is kind of a pared down version of that. So it really just records audio, and then you can go back and take the notes on it later. Because like you're saying, just taking a picture of it or just holding on to it somewhere real fast doesn't always make you go back later. Glean makes you go back about it, and that's what I really like. I think that's what students don't like about it. I'll be honest with you guys. So I've given out 54 Glean licenses. We're giving them to all DRC students, and then we're trialing it through Promise. It's pilot and it's a perk, and it was free for me. I thought kind of a small contained student population to test it out. I've had 3 students use it, and one of them is actively using it. The other 2 are just recording and not going back. Which sucks. For me, it's kind of a bummer, I did a lot of research on the program and stuff, and I've done 3 workshops, and really trying to get students to use it is not happening for me for some reason.
So you're able to see as an administrator who's using it?
So it's accessed in the last week, accessed in the last month, accessed in the last 2 months. So I had a good group of students that signed up, and so a lot of people not even getting through the sign up process. It sends out an email, you click the link, and you are signed up. They seem really excited in front of me, and then they just don't finish.
My question then about that you have this group piloting the Glean product, right? So is the hope that it's going to be something that's going to be purchased as a campus license?
I would love that if campus was on board with it. And then so we get into audio recording on campus, and we'll have to change some of our board policies, I assume, to be reflective of that. But based on usage now, I wouldn't recommend that the college buy it.
No, because it is difficult if it's not. Because again, I'm trying to think as a faculty member. If I knew I had a group of students using that type of technology to assist in their learning, that I could possibly incorporate something into my class where I say, maybe, I don't know, okay, everyone's gonna record, when I'm teaching the note taking or something, that, okay, now for the next 10 minutes, everybody's just gonna record on Glean. I want you, for your homework assignment, is to go and create your notes. Now, you can make a class activity that, again, is, is something that you're all the students that are engaged in. If it's not going to be that, then I think, honestly, just in the fact that we teach online and talk about all these videos we produce, how do we get students to watch them? How do the accountability? This is that, unfortunately, you're feeling the frustration that I feel with, trying to online instruction is
Yeah.
that how do you get, like I said, the students to know, to really engage in a product that's useful. I mean, you might have some mechanisms through them being a student that's getting this through the Disability Resource Center, where there's, I don't know, where when they sign up for it, there's some type of accountability. But again, until something becomes intrinsic that it's of value to me, sometimes we have to kind of push the extra.
Yeah, well, and that's
rewards
like,
of,
I kind of wanted
it's
to
required.
come and well, I wish the Glean people could come because they would have given you the hard sell pitch about how they want you to use this all in your classrooms. I want you to use whatever works for you, but really just if we were able to buy it for the campus, I think that would be really cool for teachers to be able to incorporate it because they think it is helpful if the students build the skill.
Yeah.
Because even though we took the traditional note-taking out of it and we put it online, there's still skill to be built there, and I don't think that they're interested in building that skill, in my opinion. But it would be really cool if we could use it in every classroom. Unfortunately, we can't force any students to use their accommodations.
Right.
So even if I gave it to every student in the DRC, I can't make any of them.
Well, like Treva was saying, we could require it for the Promise class and say, 2 out of 5 assignments you must use Glean, and then I will check to make sure you're doing it, or whatever that assignment is. But I feel like we could pilot a lot of stuff with Promise because the model of Promise is the most prescriptive kind of teaching we've ever had across the institution, where we're saying you must do this, you must do this, you must check in with Christy. So that's a great opportunity.
And then a cohort of students that you can ask them after a year of tracking them, or after their first quarter compared to their third quarter. How did you feel about note-taking in the fall? And in the spring, get that feedback from them. What was the most valuable thing you did or learned? Did you find value in the Glean? I mean, that's where you need to go back and then come full circle to get the students, because again, we, as educators, we do a lot of times, this is so good for students, this is the best thing for students. Again, like you said, selling it to them finding the value in it for themselves, and then coming back full circle for them to demonstrate, okay, it was good. That's where, like you said, we can tell them, I mean, just like, I'm a mom, so it's just, I can tell I've always could tell my daughter anything until she experienced it and did it all of us in life. But with the Promise group, you have that cohort where you can then really come and pilot these types of things.
They're really easy to study as a group.
Right. I mean, they may, not always be, they're the average age, and those that doesn't represent all of our students, but again, at least it's a group on campus that we can at least start gathering that data and information.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where I'm at a loss right now as to where to take this in the future, because the pilot's going to go till June, so maybe I'll sit down with, I think Sarah's teaching Promise in the spring.
Yep. And then,
maybe I'll sit down with Sarah and see how she can roll it into the class. Yeah. And then I don't know if it'll actually show you the print feature on here, but there is a print feature. So if you're doing your note-taking topic in the Promise class, then you can ask all the students to print their notes and submit that as Word, or print to PDF and submit digitally. Mm-hmm. One thing that it doesn't show in the demo video is that if you can pair up the PowerPoint queued up to the audio so they move at the same time, queued up to the notes, and then you can print. So we'll print PowerPoint, notes for that section, PowerPoint, notes for that section. So if you have a teacher that lets you use Open Book, Open Note, that's the way to go. You just print exactly what you got from class and take it in with you.
And then done question. So you just, it's an app on your phone, right? I'm assuming.
So it's not app-based yet, it's web-based, so you have to have a laptop. Or a Chromebook. It'll work on a Chromebook.
Okay, a phone wouldn't, because the phone uses the browser, but.
Yeah, so if you access, because it's got to be through Google Chrome, so if you get on Chrome on your phone, it'll say, please use on a laptop device.
Okay.
Yeah, because most of the students have phones.
And it will be app-based in the future.
That would be good.
There's movement app-based. And I think, from the feedback I've gotten from students is they want an app. If they work out.
Yes.
And Sonocent, the more built-out, fleshed-out program, does have an app. So for sure, when this goes live, it will be app-based as well. But yeah, I'll show you guys the demo video, and it's supposed to be intentionally so easy to use that after you watch this 2-minute and 28-second video, you can use Glean. This looks like it might be really loud.
Okay.
Let's see.
That's right.
click the New Event button. An event is where you'll record audio and add notes. Just give your event a title, then click the Record button. Glean visualizes audio on screen, so you'll see blocks of speech and gaps. When there are pauses, this makes your recording really easy to navigate and lets you link notes or labels to specific moments you may want to revisit later. Let's see how that works. To add a text note, just start typing, then click send or press enter to post the note to your feed. You can also post to your feed using Glean's quick labels. So if you hear something particularly important, just click important. Add text if you want to, or just send it straight to your feed as a reminder for later. Adding a heading breaks up your recording into sections, whether you add text in the moment, or leave this for later on. And switching to lightning mode lets you add labels with a single click or keyboard shortcut. When you're done recording, just click stop. You can exit your events safe in the knowledge that Glean continually saves as you work, whether you're online or offline. The cloud icon will show when your changes have also been synced to the cloud, so you can access your events from any device. When you come back to your event, you'll feel pretty good that you have a complete record of what was said and your personal feed showing exactly what you need to focus on. Each entry is associated to specific blocks of audio and has a play button, so you can listen back and note down the information you need. Just fill in the blanks or edit existing entries until you have a super useful set of notes.
Cool.
That's cool. I was thinking back to some of my, classes where you had lecturers who were all over the place. That would be a way for you to organize it and then also to interact with it. I really like that because sometimes, if it's, most of us probably don't do straight lecture, it depends, but if it's a straight lecture and the instructor is not that clear, I feel like it allows you then to work with that lecture after the fact. And I could see that having some real value for students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in my personal opinion at least, and from practicing using it, students should not be doing the actual note-taking part in real time almost ever. Okay. Maybe headings, but really the intention is to take the audio home and work with it. Take the classroom home with you, and the capture is done. You did the capture. It was so easy. All you
Does it do an auto transcript then?
No, it does not.
Oh, so that transcript is not. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. No transcribing element to it. Transcribing is a really sticky accommodation, at least currently. But yeah, really, they've done the capture part. The capture part was easy. Now here's the study part. The note-taking is going to become part of the study part if you do the typing at home. Yeah, I like it. I think it's cool. I think it looks cool. That's one thing they were going through. We want young students to want to use this, so we're going to make it look kind of social media-y. We're going to have the little, confused guy emoji and the exclamation point, and that's... Before we had this, we let students, for accommodation, audio record on their cell phone. So that's just pull out your iPhone, press record, and put it down. And then you have to say, oh, well, Larry talked about quadratic formulas at 36 minutes and 14 seconds, let me go find that. That's not helpful to anybody. Little exclamation point, because you don't understand quadratic formulas, may be more helpful. Anything else about the actual program itself? I like it. I think it's easy to use. I've practiced with it. If anyone wants a license, you just let me know. I'll give you a license. For us, it's not as applicable. I take it to Senate and stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and I was going to say if in the future, coronavirus has everyone uncertain about what's going to happen, but if they ever wanted to do a webinar or something, we could accommodate that. I think the app would be key. And then I was thinking about Canvas integration, but then as I thought about it, would you use this for an online class?
No.
You probably wouldn't. Oh, come in.
No, because you have everything
saved.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We're going to stop at at noon for the honor roll. So Kelly's doing the
Oh, cool.
overview
Yeah.
of Glean
And just got out of
software
class, so
and
sorry
note taking.
for-
Yeah. But so for an online student, it's note takes is different. Unless
Right.
I mean, if you had a video, I guess you could like record. That'd be kind of weird. They record the video into this.
If
the
you
audio.
really, well, okay, so in a perfect world, the instructor would have a PowerPoint, a video, captioning, and also provide some kind of note outline to the student. So really all the things have been done. If the instructor has matched up the PowerPoint to the audio and video, then you don't really need Glean to match up. So it really applies to the face-to-face classroom. And really, to give students...
You could apply to a webinar, I think.
Well, yeah, if you can save the webinar, if you can hold on to it in any way. Yeah, and so it'll record audio straight out of your computer also, which if you were in that setting would work well.
Yeah, so I guess my recommendation is, again, if we want more users, like Treva said, you could require it, or we could just say through promise we're going to
Build
require
it
this in the class, build it in. Because that class, at least how I taught last quarter, you had a lot of people coming in, but there was a lot of information. Like Amber would come in and talk about work experience, but I was always like, wow, there's so many details. So it could actually be useful in that, because typically when the guest speakers come into the class, they don't have a lot of handouts. And this way the students could save that and then say, okay, now when I want to apply for work experience, I'll go back over my notes so I know what to ask Amber when I go into her office kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
So I think it would be good for the Promise class. We could, if we want to, I was just saying in the future we could do that. Maybe a conversation with like Julie and some others involved with the Promise team.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and that's the one other thing that I wanted to show you guys is, so this little cloud icon up there. So the one thing that is really great, because as instructors, we're always concerned about academic integrity and academic property, educational property. It's saved in this cloud, so then at least we have some kind of control over it in some kind of way. I mean, anyone can go and screen record something and put it up on the internet. We ask them not to, they sign an agreement saying they won't. But holding it in this cloud, at least for me, does create kind of a safe space to hold it, rather than just allowing students to keep it on their cell phones. And then, because we tell students, like, please delete all of your recordings at the end of the quarter. I will just go into the cloud and I will remove them. So that's kind of nice just to know. And then the last thing I just kind of wanted to touch on is how we can inspire confidence in students that struggle with note taking. I have a video of this gal who really loves, she uses Sonocent, but it really is the same program at its guts.
I live in California.
That's terrible.
In class, using my ADHD and also using my Asperger's, I process things very quickly, but at the same time, because of my ADHD, like I said, I do not pay attention sometimes because I'll just get distracted so easily. And it's not that I don't know this or don't know it, it's just, it's a shift of interest. But with Sonocent, I can pick up on all the information I need beyond, teacher stories or unnecessary input or just big breaks, which is great, and I get the course of understanding of the subject. And I just love that because it helps with time, it helps with me actually paying attention because it's an app too, and I use it on my phone, I use it on my laptop, and I'm a very techy person. Sometimes there's a lot of information you don't need or things that you're like, oh, I think I'm going to miss that. You can highlight it, you can even put it in orders, you can delete things. In college, I use it. Basically, I'll turn it on at the same time the professor starts talking, and as it's recording, I'm able to take photos and actually type notes and highlight things, so it's very interactive for me. It's helped me in the classroom by basically, it slows down life a little bit for me. It actually is a relief to have this app because, when I walk in the class, there's so much going on. Kids are talking, the teacher's talking, you're flipping pages, you're writing notes, and there's everything's going so quick. So it's a lot to take in. But when I have this app, I'm like, okay, wow, I'm focusing on one thing, which is the screen. I'm not stressing about it, I'm not overthinking it, I'm it was effortless because everything I needed was there in front of me, and all I had to do was touch it.
Cool. Yeah. So like I said, there's a lot of different skills that go into the note-taking process, and so for a student that has like ADHD, like she said, it can slow her down because she's involving herself in this process. Or for a student that needs to concentrate on just being in the classroom, they can click record, put it off to the side, and they can go back to it later and really practice those skills. I think it's really important to give your students some note-taking skills, really like we talked about in the beginning, like start with this worksheet, go through these ideas, because note-taking is something that students are sometimes afraid of. It causes anxiety, it's distracting for them in the classroom. Sometimes it causes like lack of independence. So if we give a student with disability a copy of another student's notes, we've just taken away an opportunity for them to be independent in their educational experience. So really giving students multiple tools to wrap around them so that they can be independent in this scenario. Yeah, that's really what I have for you guys. Want to have a discussion about it, or?
So they have access to this by just going to being a DRC student, or?
Yeah, so we're piloting.
Okay.
So
Sorry, I
it's
missed
free.
it.
No, you're good. Yeah, so we piloted Glean, audio note taking. So before we just let students record on their cell phones, just like press record on your iPhone and save it there. So Glean is a place to house recordings, and then we're giving it to all our DRC students for this past winter quarter, and then the pilot goes until June, so we'll hit like right around the last week of school. And then also the Promise cohort was given to them as an option, but I only have 3 students currently using it on campus.
So they would still just use their phone and use the app off their phone?
So that was, yeah, so that was the Sonocent, which is like the Mama program. We're using Glean, which is the baby program.
So how would they record it?
It's on their computer. Yeah, so laptop or Chromebook. It's Chrome based right now. But if we're interested in purchasing the software in the future, it will be app-based at some point. And I think like that's a lot of the feedback I've gotten with students on the app.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's a lot easier. Yeah. Who doesn't want to be able to carry it around with them wherever they are, for sure.
So what's the process for students to ask? Because I had a student ask me this quarter if he could record, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I see that your accommodations say that's okay. But do you think that students are comfortable asking that? Because he didn't seem that comfortable asking me.
I have students sign an audio note-taking agreement in my office, so I if audio notes or audio recording is one of their accommodations, they've automatically signed the agreement. I have it in the computer. I encourage them to ask, but because it is an accommodation, if they're not comfortable, I mean, they're just...
He never did it, but I'm just wondering,
Yeah, but I'm sure, students are uncomfortable, asking their instructors for stuff, but I make sure that they've signed the agreement, that they understand the policies and those kinds of things, so that if they go into the classroom, they can just start recording. I encourage them all to have that conversation with their teachers. They don't. So,
Are there any faculty that won't let students record?
I don't think so, but I just think in general it is.
Well, and so any general student off the
then you're
street,
bringing awareness maybe more to the disability in class.
Yeah.
If they are having a note taking, maybe that's part of it too, is he didn't want that to be known.
And that's why it would be really nice if we could get an app on the phone, and then you just put your phone down on the desk, and just like everybody else in their phone does. So any old student off the street cannot walk in and just start recording your classes. Right. They need to ask permission. The audio agreement is kind of what I see as like perfect permission, because if the instructor has a problem with it, I'll share the audio agreement with them. You can't ask a student to stop recording. If you're teaching, human sexuality, and you're going to have really sensitive conversation, you can say, students are going to be sharing personal stories, please turn off your recording. And then all the Promise cohort students that I gave it to, I emailed out all the teachers that are teaching within Promise, and I got no feedback saying that no one wanted to not be recorded, so I have no feedback at all, but maybe Larry emailed me back, maybe.
I didn't get your email.
Oh dear. Oh dear. They gave me a list.
No, I'm sure. I'm not. I don't think I'm in that cohort.
I was like, I don't know. They gave me a list. I just copied it and sent it. So, I really haven't gotten much instructor feedback on it at all. One person said that they.
So what about if it's in Spanish? There's no translation. correct?
No, and
It doesn't
so
transcribe, so.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
I thought she said it did transfer.
no transcription service. So it really is to capture audio. So we're capturing what you're saying in the classroom, and if you're talking in Spanish, that means you want the students to understand you speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
So when they listen back, it'll be your voice recording. It's just audio recording. And it really just is a way of giving the Disability Resource Center, at least in my perspective, like some control over the audio note-taking scenario and being sure that we're providing quality audio note-taking rather than just saying whip out your phone and record it on whatever you want. So, thanks.
Well, this is wonderful, Kelly. We should stop. We have honor roll coming up at 12.
Yeah.
Kelly, thank you. Really great job. Thank you, Treva,
Thanks,
as well.
guys, for coming in.
And we
And if you
can
have
do
any
more
questions,
workshops
Trent.
anytime you want. We can do
Absolutely.
more.
Yeah, if you have questions about Glean specifically, I'll give you the contact of the Glean team and
Yeah, just
Great.
so they can see, did I get what Sarah was saying about that? It's kind of cool.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Because they can just upload it into Google.
Well, you could do, you could just like, you can play the audio, like you could do the translate, but so you could get it to do the, it has some transcript. Well, I don't know how it works with Spanish from Spanish to English in regard, because you can type in stuff, but you can also say stuff, right?
I don't know.
You should look
I'm
at that.
highly discouraged.
Okay, yeah, I know.
So I don't ever